Aeroled Pulsar NSP nav strobe lights. So I've already opened this and have everything out, but inside you have the light, which also comes with a pouch for each wingtip that has the connectors as well as the mounting bracket. So I made a template to help with the installation process. So I drilled a hole in here, traced out the general shape, so I had the general shape of where this would sit on the surface so I could find a good flat surface. This is the right-hand wing. I had the template made with the holes drilled. Measured my 36 inches to the back of the light, and then up 3 inches is the center of the main hole for the light and the main mounting hole in the back. So I just use my template and throw it on there. With the template removed, we'll put the mounting bracket on, double check all the holes to make sure they line up. So for mounting the bracket, I'm using 632 bolts that are 1/2 inch long with lock nuts and a washer for the inside. These are concave, they're beveled, and so because the bracket itself is beveled, so they sit nice and flat. And so as I drill these out, we just double check to make sure they sit flush. All right, so that is a perfect fit. So the light, those 3 holes line up, and those holes, so you'll see that the bracket is slotted. So the hole will go on, and when it's on, it slides back and locks into place. When it locks into place, it won't come up, and it comes forward, it comes off. So it's a pretty cool design, nice and easy installation. That's it. If you have a light and you're doing this, it made it really nice not having to guess or trying to drill holes and then match drill them or use hole duplicators. So it worked out really well. So this is what it looks like with the light on the top side of the wing. You come in, you can easily see where each of the surfaces are, where the light's blocked, and draw the lines. Up here you can see where there's no light coming through, where I've marked the lines, but I just moved the light up and down to make that happen. And I flipped it from front to back. When I started drilling those, I started on the top side because it's got the curve, with the rivets on the bottom, the one that I could get to down on the very bottom. And I did drill 2 holes and then clecoed it from the bottom, and then I just moved from top to bottom and did 2 clecos to kind of tighten it up and move it as it goes all the way up. So there's a nice good seam. I'll pull this off one more time, clean up the seams and lower this edge down a little bit below that hinge right there. So probably about 1/8 of an inch, and trim that across, and then I'll go back and upsize those if I decide not to use nut plates to make it removable. Realized I needed to take a break and check the flaps and recognize the flap stops had not been installed. That means that when the flaps are all the way up, they weren't in the exact same position, and that needed to happen so that both sides were exactly where they needed to be, and then that way the ailerons could be adjusted and matched, and that way when the wingtips go on, the wingtips match and you have a nice smooth surface all the way across all of the control surfaces. The ailerons, the flaps, and then the wingtips are all lined up so that it works really nice. So I had to pull the back panel off, access the flap motor which has been installed. The motor control and the adjustments seem to be really close to where they needed to be, so Randy did a really good job with that. And so all I needed to do was install the flap stops. So what those look like is the flap stops are these white pieces here. This side has been placed, and so basically these blocks are shaved down on one edge. The block on the left has been beveled for the flap contact point, and it's also been drilled so that the rivet heads sit down inside the block. The block on the right has not been cleaned up at all. It's from that angle. The rivet heads on the left hand side are underneath the plastic. Rivets on the right hand side are up. So pretty good comparison. Close the wing down, measure it with shims, lift it out, put the shims in so that it's adjusted so that this rests directly on the blocks. To make sure that the flaps not only were hitting their stops, but when they're stopped and rested and when they're traveling, that they are actually traveling together and that they are in sync. So with this, took 2 pieces of angle iron. They're just pushed down on the edge of the flaps, held in place by clamps, and they run across. And so elevation-wise, very little difference here. There's maybe a 1/16 of an inch of difference in height of the angle iron. A nice thing about working here at the shop is there has access to a lot of things that they've done here. This tool here is designed to allow to build in a little bit of droop in the flaps. They have found that having that droop in the flaps helps with low speed characteristics while you're flying. And so it's basically a 1/2 inch difference between flush. And so basically you rivet this into one of your spars on the outside edge. You just use clecos and hold it into place. And then you put the edge of the flap in this notch, and when it's all flush up here and there's about a 1/2 inch gap here, that's your setting. So I already have that set on both wings and checked it. On this side over here, you can see that drops in. I'm not going to rivet in place, but it would be riveted in place. So this is flat on the wing surface, the curved surface, and in that notch, it gives that 1/2 inch gap of droop. So a tool that's here that would have been required to build, or laying a straight edge and trying to measure that, and so this tool just made it super easy. This project was working on the installation of the Ray Allen flap sensor. So in this case, did a little research and found that the best place to mount this was on the actual rotating flap bar within a dell clamp. Saw multiple installations of that online in the research I was doing. So the travel is perfect for the 1.2 inch travel with that larger dell clamp tightened in. A little bit unique, I used a hinge piece first, which is what I'd seen online, but it flopped around too much, and I tried to use a Z-bend hinge wire, and that also flopped around too much. And so the solution was at Radio Shack. This is an RC attachment point for an RC vehicle. The shaft was a little bit too short, and so the end pieces are metric. They're M4s by 0.7s, and that just allowed me to get some all thread and put the all thread in there, cut it to length, and it works perfectly with the amount of travel that's required.